I think we're live. Are we live? Are we live? If we're live, welcome everybody. Manchester United have sacked another manager. Ruben Amorim is gone and he is no more at Manchester United. The Ruben Amorim train is over. It's over. The inevitable has finally happened. As of this morning, 10 o'clock, we got the reports from David Ornstein that Ruben Amorim has been sacked as Manchester United manager. It's over. The 3-4-3 experiment, the promises of a new era, the Sporting Lisbon model, it's all come crashing down after just a run of inconsistent results, really. And honestly, it's a little bit of a relief. I've got to be honest with you. Now, I said, look, I want Ruben Amorim to be successful at Manchester United, like any manager. But we knew it was coming, really, didn't we? I think the atmosphere in the last couple of press conferences that he has turned negative. I think the football has been confusing. The relationship between the manager and the board now seems absolutely strained. I think it was absolutely 100% coming. Look, we'll get into it. We're going to break down why he failed, some of his stats. I think they're just absolutely impossible to ignore, to be quite honest with you. Darren Fletcher is taking charge of Manchester United's next game against Burnley on Wednesday night, but we'll get into the reports. As of, I think BBC announced that he is not going to be the interim manager for the remainder of the season. As always, guys, do smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. But it's been a very, very hectic morning for Manchester United. And look, we've got to look at the cold hard facts here with Ruben Amorim. When he came in, we were, promised, I suppose, a clear identity. We were promised that, this 3-4-3 system would revolutionise the Premier League, given what he'd done with it in Portugal. And instead, I think what we got is confusion more than anything else. And look, we'll jump into the stats of what Ruben Amorim has done at Manchester United. But if we look at the win percentage, it's simply not good enough. 38.1% is his win percentage since he came in. He has only won he has won 23 out of 64 games in charge at Manchester United. It's simply not good enough. It really, really isn't. And look, we've been conceding too many goals as well. When we talk about, putting in the resources and the finances to back and to get a new forward line there. We got Sesko, we got Cunha, we got Mbeumo. We've conceded 114 goals under Ruben Amorim. It hasn't been good enough. Now, look, we do sit 6th in the Premier League at the moment. And, look, we did finish 15th last year. And I think 15th was probably not an unfair league finish, but I think it was more so we were heavily reliant on the Europa League and prioritising that because it was our only real chance of getting into Europe. But again, are we 6th this season on form, or are we there on default, really? Because I think, when we look at the numbers and the stats there, it's worse than any Manchester United manager, in the modern era since Ferguson left. And, we sacked David Moyes, for finishing 7th. Amorim finished 15th last year. We sacked Louis van Gaal, who finished 5th on goal difference, I think, just after winning an FA Cup. We sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for finishing 2nd and 3rd consecutively. Went through a little bit of a bad spell and he got sacked. You know what I mean? So, we know we spend huge money in the summer on Cunha and Mbeumo, Sesko to fit this system. And the attack has improved. But again, like I said, it's the defence that has let us down this season. The biggest issue for me, though, it wasn't just the results. It was the inconsistencies, really, wasn't it? 1 week we'd beat a top side. The next week we're drawn at home to, relegation fodder in the likes of Wolves. I think we never knew which Manchester United side was going to turn up. And as a manager, that's your job. You've got to do that. You really, really do. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons why he has lost his job. I think his refusal to adapt as well. Some of the reports coming out this morning suggested that there was a bust up in a meeting last week when he was questioned about changing from his 3-4-3 system. And I do understand that a manager's job shouldn't be dictated to by, a sporting director or an owner or somebody in a boardroom. But ultimately, with Ruben Amorim, I don't think he learned from his mistakes, and I think that was one of them. That's probably the main criticism I would have with him. I don't think he learned from his mistakes enough, and yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it has cost him his job. It really, really has, and it's a shame because, like any manager, I want them to be successful, because if they are successful, then that means that Manchester United are being successful and we're winning games. But I think his refusal to adapt and not learning from his mistakes, some of his in-game management, I think was really, really poor. And look, ultimately, over the last maybe week or two, then you could see that it wasn't just a football anymore. It was his relationship with the board, his comments that he made in press conferences leading up to the Leeds game, I think were the final nail in the coffin. And then subsequently what he said after the game, about he doesn't want to be the manager, he doesn't want to be the head coach, he wants to be the manager. When you go to war with the board or the powers that be at whatever club, we seen it with Maresca 2 weeks ago at Chelsea. He started doing the same, he was gone, and we're seeing the same now with Ruben Amorim. I look, if you don't get and Ruben Amorim said this, he said, if I don't get the time and the money, I cannot play a perfect 3-4-3. Well, then adapt. You know what I mean? He also said the board have one idea, he has another, which again is going to war with him. And ultimately then when he says what he said after the Leeds game, you're never going to win. You are never going to win. And he mentioned a lot about recruitment as well. And you cannot say that Ruben Amorim hasn't been backed as Manchester United manager. Now, we knew with INEOS coming in and the new hierarchy and the structure that's there, that it's going to be a collective going forward in terms of recruitment. And we were all calling for that, and I'm seeing an awful lot of negativity online about INEOS, and look, they haven't got everything right. Absolutely, the Dan Ashworth and the Eric Ten Hag decisions were massive decisions that they got wrong. But I think ultimately, we've done really well in the transfer window in terms of business over the last couple of seasons. Obviously one or two of them haven't worked. Joshua Zirkzee, Manuel Ugarte, there's question marks over, but Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko is young, still has to start scoring more goals. Lemens has been a really good signing. Last January then, you bring in Patrick Dorgu, who you would hope is, on an upward trajectory after a couple of good performances. Aidan Heaven looks like an absolute steal at 1.5 million. I think we've done good business in the transfer window over the last couple of seasons. So you can't really say, like, Ruben Amorim can't come out and say that he hasn't been backed, because I think he has. He mightn't have ultimately got who he wanted, but reports are saying that he wanted Ollie Watkins ahead of Benjamin Sesko because he's a Premier League proven player. And while I understand that, every manager is going to want a Premier League proven player in their squad, because managers now know that they don't get time. They're not going to get 4 or 5 years to build a team like Mikel Arteta has done, and he still hasn't won a trophy except an FA Cup with his previous the previous manager's team. So you've got to work with what you're given. And who's to say that if Benjamin Sesko scores 15 goals next season, 20 the season later, that that is the right decision then, because you've gone with a 22-year-old who is potentially a long-term better replacement than somebody like Ollie Watkins, who's 27, 28 and doesn't have maybe youth on his side as much. I don't know, and time will tell on all of these decisions. But ultimately, the decision has been made. Now, look, we do know that Darren Fletcher has been brought in on an interim basis. It does look like it's only going to be for a couple of games. The reports say that Manchester United hope to appoint a caretaker manager for the rest of the season, and that person won't be Darren Fletcher. So that's big. It's big news, and it's something we do have to take into consideration here. Darren Fletcher will not take the team for the rest of the season. Now, who is it going to be? I don't know. There's been talks about maybe Michael Carrick. I can't see Michael Carrick coming to do an interim role at Manchester United and leave Middlesbrough, considering, he's building his career there. He's doing well with them. I would be very surprised. A lot of people talking this morning about Roy Keane. I would absolutely love to see Roy Keane come in on an interim basis between now and the end of the season. I think he would demand standards, and look, tactically he's probably not the best choice, but you put a team around him of people who can coach properly, and Keane is a man manager. I just think it would be box office. And if you are going for your number one choice in the summer, give it a keynote. Give it a keynote to the end of the season. I just think it would be box office. Could you imagine, like, I'm going to the Manchester Derby now in a couple of weeks' time. Could you imagine Keane walking out the tunnel for the Manchester Derby and 75,000 people chanting his name again like they were 20 years ago? I think it would be brilliant. But who is the long-term successor going to be? And I think waiting till the summer probably opens up a lot more options for us. If we look at the leading candidates that are being mentioned this morning: Eddie Howe, Thomas Tuchel, Enzo Maresca, Roberto De Zerbi, Oliver Glasner. I mean, there's a couple of standouts for me. I've always said I've always liked Thomas Tuchel. I think he would be a very good manager. Is he going to stay past the World Cup? I don't think so. I think he's got a short-term contract, does he, with England? I mean, he's got a great opportunity to win the World Cup with England. I think he potentially could, given the squad that they have, win the World Cup and then come and manage the biggest team in the world, biggest club in the world. I wouldn't be against that at all. Eddie Howe, I don't think so. Enzo Maresca, no thanks. Now, Enzo Maresca does have a lot of connections with the hierarchy at Manchester United at the moment, given the fact that Wilcox and Barada were previously at City when Enzo Maresca was there as well. So that is a name to keep close tabs on. Oliver Glasner, we know, is... his contract is up at the end of the season with Palace, and he will not be renewing it. So he absolutely is an option there as well. And I mean, a big one for me also is Nagelsmann. I know he's not mentioned on that list, but I think he's a fantastic manager, and he's managing Germany in the World Cup in the summer. And again, he's got a really good opportunity to go far with them. I think he's a very, very good coach. Now, again, it depends what INEOS are going to be looking for. Get your comments in. I'll go through them in a moment. Smash a like on the video as well, by the way, guys. Plenty of people watching, not an awful lot of likes. Just hit that like button for us real quick. But what kind of manager do INEOS want to bring in the summer? Do they want to bring in a yes man who will come in as maybe part of the structure there and not have too much say over recruitment? That remains to be seen. I would like to see a balance, where the manager has a list of players that he would like to have, and but again, I think the structure that's in place, where you've got all hands on deck, you've got a scouting department, a recruitment department, Christopher Vivell, Jason Wilcox, ultimately will have a big say on it as well. And again, I go back to what I've said about the last few transfer windows. I think we've done really good business. When you look at the Delicts, the Mbumos, the Cunhas, the Lamens, the Aiden Heavens for a snip. I think we've done some good business. I really, really do. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out going forward. But look, ultimately, it looks like are we going back to square one? Now, we spoke about this before, and we spoke about it especially over the transfer windows, last summer, where we said we were buying players that can play multiple systems. When you think about Mbumo, Cunha, you're talking about players that we already have there as well. Dorgu can play in multiple positions. We know that, potentially there's an argument there for a Mason Mount to be able to play in a number 10, wide on the left, so on and so forth. I do think our recruitment has been heavily focused on that as well. We know there's a very good 4-3-3 in this squad that we've got. Now, you telling me when we get everyone back from AFCON, you're talking about a back four of Mazraoui, Luke Shaw, De Ligt and Martinez. A midfield three of, take your pick, of any four of Ugarte, Casemiro, Bruno and Kobbie Mainoo. And are you telling me Kobbie Mainoo's injury is not going to suddenly disappear this week? And he's going to be available on Wednesday night? It 100% will. Take your pick from the four of them to play a three in midfield. And then you've got a forward line of Cunha, Mbeumo and Sesko. That's a good team, guys. And you've still got Ahmad to come in there. You've still got Mason Mount to come in there. Aiden Heaven, Patrick Dorgu, Diogo Dalot. All of a sudden, there's a bit of depth when you change that formation a little bit. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Let's get through some of your comments here, and we'll see what you're saying. Jason says he was never backed. I disagree, Jason. I disagree. I think he was backed. He didn't get ultimately every player that he wanted, but no manager does. I think he was heavily backed. We spent nearly 200 million in the summer, and two of them were on really good Premier League proven players. So I think he was backed. He also says he's not great, but was never backed. Can't make superstars out of crap players. I think we've got a good squad. I think we've got a squad that should be higher up in the table, considering the inconsistencies of some of the teams around us. I genuinely do. I think we've got a better squad than Aston Villa. I think we've potentially got it. We've got a better squad than Chelsea, in my opinion. I think we're probably neck and neck for Liverpool in terms of quality within our squad as well. Bilal says, I think it will be Julian Nagelsmann who they will go for and as a permanent appointment, as it has been reported that Vivell is going to be key for new manager selection and he's worked with Nagelsmann. Absolutely. Yeah. Jason says, Xavi or Zidane, only solutions. Again, apologies, Jason, but I disagree on that as well. I think Xavi maybe, but I think Zidane, I mean, there's a reason why Zidane hasn't got a job since he left Real Madrid. He was always going to be Real Madrid and Real Madrid only, in my opinion. He doesn't speak English either. Big A says, in my opinion, it's the wrong call. Too much typing to say why, but it's the wrong call. Bilal says, at 2 clubs from 19 to 21, after the World Cup 26, I will be surprised if they select Julian as a permanent selection. Steve says, we love United. Bilal also says, we are going to follow the German football route where you get in young talent, hone them into special players such as Salah, Mane, Firmino. There's a lot of Liverpool players being mentioned there. So, yeah. Dan says, I think Sesko is a waste of money. He looks like a non-league player. I completely disagree. I think obviously I would like him to be putting the ball in the net more. But I think his all-round play is vastly improved on Rasmus Højlund. His link-up play is good. His first touch is good. His runs are good. His positioning is good. Should he be scoring more goals for the chances he's been getting? Yes. But he's a young player adapting to the league. I think he's going to be good. Sungli says he should have sold Bruno to buy 2 midfielders. I think that's complete nonsense. Bruno has been the most productive player in the Premier League the last 5 or 6 years. Well, since he's come. Why would you get rid of that? You know, Unai Emery's name has been mentioned for United as well. Yeah, look, there's going to be a lot of developments, guys, and it is going to be something that will rumble on over the next few days and weeks. Of course, we are live for our podcast tonight at 8 o'clock, so we will be getting into it in depth. I just wanted to jump on and do a quick live about it. I think it is. It's look. We'll have more information by the time we do the live tonight. Like there's updates coming all of the time. You know. Again, look. Here's one with Clear the Air meeting. Ben Jacobs has been talking on the United Stand. He says in a Clear the Air meeting after the draw to Wolves, Jason Wilcox wanted more tactical adaptability and lowered expectation regarding January deals. Amorim was furious with this, which accelerated tensions. Amorim questioned how, with a currently depleted squad, he can succeed when changing tactical styles. So there we go. We're going to have absolutely loads of updates between now and the podcast at 8 o'clock tonight. Make sure you're tuning in. Turn on notifications. Make sure you're joining us. Get your opinions in tonight. 8 o'clock live on YouTube. We are going to be live with a couple of the channel members to discuss everything. So make sure you're tuning in. Smash a like on the video, guys. Do subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Like I said, we're on the road to 15,000 subscribers, so make sure you're getting involved as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll chat to you tonight. Have a good day. Take it easy.